Well, I've been homebrewing since 2006, and I just really enjoyed the whole process. I have a science background. I got a degree in microbiology, and to me, brewing is just microbiology, but with the ultimate, some microbiological lab work with the ultimate result in the end. So, a lot of homebrewers think about, what if I started my own, brewing company, and I just followed it through a little further than most, I guess. Brewing beer, it's science, and it's so many different sciences, and I think that's something a lot of people don't appreciate or understand. There's microbiology, chemistry, botany, a little bit of physics, biochemistry, and so just having a scientific understanding of each of the steps helps you control the variables and set the variables up in a way that ultimately leads to good beer. So any alcoholic beverage starts with one thing, and that's a sugar source. So with wine, your sugar source is grapes. With apple cider, your sugar source is apple juice. With beer, it's a little different. You don't really start with sugar as much as you start with starches from malted barley. So the first step in brewing is converting those starches into sugars. And so you do that in the mash tun. You mix hot water with crushed malted barley at a certain temperature, and it activates enzymes in the barley that converts those starches into sugar. Once you're done with the mash, you take that liquid, so you have the grain mixed with the hot water, where you leave all the grain behind, and you take the liquid. At this point, it's called wort, W-O-R-T, and it goes into the kettle. And at that point, the wort is boiled. You add some hops. You can add other things during the boil. It boils for an hour, and then after it's done boiling, it's run through this heat exchanger that cools it down. And I take one of these long blue hoses and hook it up to whatever fermentation vessel that batch is going in. So you get cool wort in the fermenter, and that's where you pitch the yeast. Yeast, this is where my microbiology background comes in. Yeast it's a living microorganism, so it needs a very specific environment to ferment beer to ferment wort into beer. Temperature control, oxygen, the right number of yeast cells all play a factor. So once it's cooled and in there, we pitch the yeast. The yeast ferments the beer, so it takes those sugars, converts them into alcohol and CO2. That takes about 12 days. After the fermentation vessel, it goes into one of the smaller vessels, the bright tanks, and that's where the beer is carbonated. And from the bright tank, it goes into the kegs. We have the Halleck Pale Ale, which is the best seller. It's I hop it in such a way. A lot of people say, I don't like hoppy beers, because a lot of hoppy beers are like your IPAs are really bitter. But I try to add the hops in a way that you get more of the floral and the aroma, the floral aroma and flavors, and not so much the bitterness. Nate's Nut Brown, which is dark but not overwhelmingly so. It's not real heavy on the palate. A lot of people like that. It has hints of chocolate. And then after that, we have the porter, and that one is dark, and it is a little bit more aggressively flavored. So I like to describe the Nate's Nut Brown as like a milk chocolate, and the porter is like a dark or bitter chocolate flavor. And then I have Your Best Option, which is a bitter imperial IPA. It's the strongest beer I've made. So it's really hoppy, really bitter, and it's the highest alcohol beer I regularly have at 8.2. But I usually try to gauge people when I'm talking to them about what they normally like to drink. If they're not real big into craft beers and are used to drinking the light lagers, I'll start them off with the wheat water, but otherwise it'd be the Halleck Pale Ale. For the tap room, I just want to have a night like a local place people come to drink local beer. I mean, obviously it's not very big, but I just like, I'd say 70% of the people we get in here right now are regulars, and so I'm kind of achieving that goal. Just people come in, they like the atmosphere, they like the small atmosphere, they like to be able to talk and see where the beer's brewed and be able to talk to the brewer. And as far as the brewing company goes, my goal in my whole life, since I basically decided what my goal in life to do is to just enjoy what I do, and I'm doing it. We're at 444 Brockway Avenue, the old Rexford Heating and Cooling building. We're open Wednesday through Friday, 4 to 11, and then Saturdays noon to 11.